I can start that recording. Sure. Okay. We are
All right.
recording.
All right. So I would like to welcome everyone this evening to the Junior 2022 class of 2022 Town Hall for your college prep for your student. My name is Renee Avia, and I am the interim assistant principal for this year for the junior class. My beginnings with Sycamore go back to 20, 2000, not 20, 2000, when I was a Spanish teacher, and then I became an assistant principal, and then I retired about 5 years ago. And I've worked at various school buildings in the district. After that, filling in for assistant principals, and now I'm here this year for the entire year. Um, your counselors, Brenda Fisher, she has the alphabet A through K, and Bonnie Stephenson, the other counselor for the boys,
Hello.
has the alphabet L through Z. So she takes you to the end of the alphabet. Um, I'd like to tell you guys a couple things about this evening and what our rules are for engagement, kind of like how we're going to run the meeting. It is being recorded. And so if anybody misses it, joins late, or if you know of many parents that cannot join us this evening, it will be posted, the entire hour phone call and recording will be posted on the counseling website. So you can hear everything that happened. Everyone can see and use the chat for any questions that you have, general questions that you may have throughout the hour. I will be monitoring the chat and then sending those to Bonnie and Brenda. If you have anything that's very specific for your child, then you'll want to go ahead and make an appointment to have a phone conversation with your counselor for very specific things. Um, Participants are muted and the camera's off so you can't see each other, but you can see and hear us. And we're going to finalize our session at 7:30 so that it'll go 1 hour. We did ask some questions up front uh, for questions for up front, and you guys did ask some questions. So we want to address those before we begin with the presentation. I had a few general questions as an administrator that I can answer, and then Bonnie and Brenda had a couple that they will answer questions that you guys had specifically about colleges. So one of those questions that I had was, um, let's see, let's see first. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my grades. So grades in general for the high school. So the grades in general are going to there's going to be the same as it always has been for this year. The virtual students are getting grades just as the face-to-face students are getting grades. Um, Teachers are required to put grades in at least 2 weeks after they have any assessments. So usually we give 2 weeks because many times the English teachers are requiring some writing, so it takes some time to grade many writings. So basically, in general, grading is the same. Weights are the same. There isn't any kind of changes. Um, there was equity between face-to-face and virtual in assessments. So this question has been on our minds at the school, at the high school, throughout all the departments and the administration. And we've been talking about it in our leadership teams with the teachers and in the staff meetings. So basically, one of the things that we're really asking all of the students to do is we're appealing to their sense of integrity. We have an academic integrity statement that they understand that it's upon them to be honest and not cheat. So I know many teachers are relying on that piece that, just have honest academic integrity and just do your work and your assessments. Some others ideas that teachers have come up with are timed assessments. So if it's a quick informal assessment or formative assessment, we call them, it'll be 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. They're timed. So it's same for the virtual as for the live stream student or the face-to-face student. Another one is we're allowing some folks to have note cards. So some classes are doing that. Then we also have two tech solutions. We have Bloxy and Cami. So Bloxy is used for multiple choice questions, and Cami is used for written questions. So teachers are implementing those in their classrooms as well. The next are there any new guidelines for schools? So I know that you guys have been inundated with all kinds of videos and just everything new for this school year because of our situation with the pandemic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put more items on the Blackboard Junior site that you have access to, where you came to log in. So you have an easy access to things that may be new this year. Um, for some face-to-face folks, like dropping stuff off at school is new. We're not allowing any visitors this year. Um, it's another one I can think of off the top of my head. What else? Well, we're not ordering a lot of pizza anymore, so there's not a lot of outside food. That's a big change that everybody, used to do.
Mhm.
So I will put all of those on the main page. Um, then the return. When will virtual students, be able to return to Sycamore High School? Will it be after this, second semester? Or during second semester. So that question, we all are noodling in our minds. We've begun to think about it. It's a district-wide decision, obviously, at the secondary level, high school level. We've begun to think about it. District office also has to be involved in that decision. So we don't know the answer to that question yet. It's way too early. Um, October 1st is tomorrow, so we really don't know. So as far as returning after first semester, we don't know yet how that's going to look or what that may be like. So with that said, those were the questions that I could answer as an administrator. So I'm going to turn it over, I think, to Bonnie, right?
Actually, to me, to Brenda.
Oh,
Yes, to
sorry, Brenda,
Mrs.
Brenda.
Fisher. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
All
no
right.
worries. No worries. Thank you, Ms. Avia. And good evening, everyone. For those of you whom I have not met, I am Brenda Fisher, school counselor for the best class, class of 2022, last names A through K. And so what Mrs. Stephenson and I are planning on doing for the remainder of our time together is we have split up the other questions that were submitted ahead of time regarding the post-secondary planning process. And so we're going to be answering those. Then we also had some additional resources that we wanted to share with you and some updates. So that, and then certainly there will be opportunities if you would like to put something in the chat that you can do that for questions as they come up. One of the questions that was submitted is, how do I get into National Honor Society? And of course, National Honor Society is an honor that is first available for students in their junior year, and then there are times when senior year students join National Honor Society for the first time. And the first qualifier is a GPA, so grade point average of a 3.6 or above. And so Mrs. Stephenson and I consulted with the National Honor Society faculty sponsors and advisors. And so what they shared is that the student officers of National Honor Society in the next few weeks will be getting in touch with students that meet that GPA threshold of 3.6 or above and inviting students to apply to National Honor Society. And all the details will be involved or be included in that invitation. So for those students, again, who are a 3.6 GPA or above, be on the lookout for communication from the NHS officers about next steps. Another question that we got is, can parents get an overgrad login? What are parent best practices for using overgrad? And overgrad, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, it is our college and our career planning platform that is free and available to students and to parents alike. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you how to access Blackboard, or not Blackboard, excuse me, how to access Overgrad. Okay, so if we are now on the Sycamore High School website. So Sycamore Community Schools, then we choose Sycamore High School. If you go to the counseling website, which is in the top green bar, and then you scroll down, you can click on Overgrad, which is on the midway through the left-hand side. And it explains what Overgrad is, how students can use it, how parents and guardians can use it. And then we have a specific step-by-step guide on how to log in to Overgrad. And then a specific video, Overgrad for parents, and how Overgrad can be utilized for the college match and planning process. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't, parents, for you to get connected and get connected to your students' Overgrad accounts. Particularly in senior year, this will have a very large role, Overgrad, for those students interested in post-secondary planning related to college and university. All right, so I am going to stop sharing my screen with you right now. Okay. I will come on back over here. Okay, let's see. I know right now you're seeing my screen go in lots of different directions here. So let's see. Of course, it worked on a different computer earlier. So maybe I'm just going to leave it on the Overgrad here for a moment while I get that worked out. Oh, here we go. Here's my stop sharing. Okay. A second question, or a third question actually, that we received is, it appears that schools that required ACT with writing a couple of years ago are no longer requiring this. Is this a trend you expect to continue? Is there any reason my child should take ACT with writing? That's a great question, and very, very relevant to the times of college admissions during the COVID era. And certainly something that we continue to hear from college admissions representatives across the country is the move and the shift to a test optional admissions practice for schools, particularly for the admissions cycle for our current seniors, so the class of 2021. What a big question mark is, and certainly that will become more clear in the months ahead, is for the class of 2022. Will students be taking or be required to take or submit an ACT or an SAT score for college admissions? One thing that I can say, and I know Mrs. Stephenson and I have been joining a lot of different college admissions updates and hearing from college admissions counselors from across the country. One thing that is I have not heard one college admissions counselor talk about is ACT with writing. So in answering this question, I would say there is no reason at this point in time for a junior to consider having writing as a part of the ACT. Because right now, what is still unknown is how many colleges and universities will continue to be test optional in the admission cycle for the class of 2022. So writing is an optional extra element, and truly, I've not seen any compelling reason for a student to go ahead and add writing to their ACT if they're taking an ACT. So next, I'm going to turn over the questions that were submitted to Mrs. Stephenson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bonnie Stephenson. Again, I'm counselor for students who have last names between L and Z. I see we have 80 people here now. So once again, thanks everybody for joining. We're hoping that we can give you some information, but also start to utilize the chat if there are questions that you want us to address while we're talking. There are a few more that were given to us ahead of time. So the first one I want to address is how will PSAT, SAT, and ACT testing be handled this year? So I'm not sure if the person asking the question wondered how Sycamore is going to handle their administrations or how the world is handling their administrations, but I'll tell you a little bit about what I know about both. So the PSAT is going to be given on October 14th at school. There is also a practice ACT that day. The registration for these two tests happened in the spring when the world was quite a bit different. And we've been collecting money for the PSAT. And I think as of tomorrow, October 1st at 1 o'clock, it's like everybody who signed up for the PSAT. What?
4th.
So
It's October 4th.
Oh, it's not October 1st is the deadline?
October 4th, yeah. We went ahead and made it October 4th. So
Okay, you guys are getting totally up-to-date information. So what Miss Avia is saying is that you have until October 4th at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is that right? To pay if you already registered for the PSAT.
right.
And we
Now,
haven't been taking new registrations for the PSAT for a while.
there's one caveat. The 4th, when we looked, fell on a Sunday. So if you pay by October 2nd, which is a Friday, that's even better. We'll take it on the 5th because obviously we didn't look close at the calendar. So the 5th is fine, but that's the last. That's it. We can't do it anymore.
Okay, so the 5th,
The 5th because the 4th was a Sunday.
okay, at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that'll just give more people a chance to pay and take the PSAT that they signed up for a while ago. Other juniors will take the practice ACT. And so my understanding is that virtual students who are taking the practice ACT are going to be doing something online.
Correct.
So I don't know if they've been.
Everyone will be sent a link, face-to-face and virtuals. The practice test does have a link, so virtual students will have a link and they'll take it at their house. And since it's a practice test,
Right.
Practice ACT they're fine with that. The PSAT does not do that.
Right.
You have to sit for the exam.
Okay. So that's PSAT and that October 14th testing date information. In February, we are scheduled to give a pencil and paper official ACT without writing. I would presume that we are going to be doing a pencil and paper ACT with writing, but I hesitate to presume anything past about 3 days from now. But unless Miss Avia knows something different about the plans for that day, that's how it stands right now. So that is an opportunity because it is an official ACT score to take through the school an ACT that you can send to colleges, and it does not have writing with it. SAT is a test that students need to sign up for on their own to take outside of school, and you do that at the College Board website. There are testing centers administering the the SAT right now, but it's been a little bit of a hassle. I don't know if anybody follows like higher ed news, but on the blogs, people are kind of upset right now because a lot of the testing centers have closed, and sometimes the students don't know that their test center is closed. So I do have students that have successfully taken SAT and ACT since the COVID season started. And if you're asking me if you, the student, or for the parents, my child should take an SAT outside of school, I would say yes, that might be a good idea to try to do that. I think it's really important for students to try both tests, the ACT and the SAT, because some do better on one and some do better on another. And so yeah, why not? No, I don't know of any colleges that prefer one over the other. Colleges utilize a conversion chart that converts one score to the other. So for example, when I worked at Miami University in admission, I only saw an ACT score. I actually never knew whether the student took the SAT or the ACT. They converted it to an ACT score before I even saw it. So I guess that's sort of how PSAT, SAT, and ACT will be handled. And if people have more questions about that, I can get more specific in addressing those. When should we start with the Common App? So maybe not everybody knows what the Common Application is, but Common Application is a platform where students who are applying to college can set up an account and put in all of their demographic information and some of their academic information from high school once, and then they can push that information to the different colleges to which they want to apply. We've really seen the Common App evolve over the years to include a lot of the schools that our students apply to. So it's a big deal to open up your Common App account, and for many students, all of their schools participate in the Common App. And you don't even need to know if your college participates or not. It's like if you go to IU's website and you just push apply, if they're a Common App school, they will send you to the Common App. So it does take some time to populate all of the fields in the Common App, and it opens on October 1st. So I would say, a year from now, you should probably have opened your Common App. And there are some things you can find out ahead of time if you want, like right now you could go in there and you could kind of see how it works. You could also see the essay prompts that are part of the Common App. They are the same this year as they were last year, and who knows, they may be the same next year. So you could take a look at the essay prompts. With regard to essays, there is a general Common App essay. A lot of schools like to see that one, not all schools. You don't have to write an essay to apply to every school. So, but there is a Common App general essay that you choose the prompt and write an essay about. And then you may apply to a school that requires more supplementary writing. So it just kind of depends on the schools that you apply to. So yeah, Common App is something you want to familiarize yourself with, and you will be opening your account late next summer. When is the best time to apply for scholarships? Well, I always talk about successfully gaining scholarship money as a hunting expedition, in that the more time that you're willing to put in and beat the bushes and look for scholarships that apply to you as best as possible, the more options you'll have for getting scholarship money. Now, having said that, a lot of the scholarships that you apply to for college money, you apply in your senior year. So I'm going to actually show you something. So I don't know if everybody knows, but on the Sycamore website, there is a scholarship page. So when I do that, I'm going to share my screen. And okay, so can Mrs. Fisher and Miss Hevia tell me if you're seeing the scholarship list?
I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing, oh, there we go. Got it. I'm seeing it.
Okay. Because once I do that, yeah, I can't really see what's happening on the screen anymore. So if you go to the Sycamore Community Schools website and go to the high school and go to counseling, one of the prompts on the left-hand side is scholarship. And actually, so I'm going to go back a screen. So here's the main scholarship page. I clicked here to get the list. We'll do that again in a minute, but there's a video about searching for scholarships. And then there's all these resources that are more national scholarship search engines. And again, you really have to make a decision about where you want to spend your time. So if a scholarship only offers one nationwide and it's for $150, you're going to want to think about how much time you want to spend on that. But we have had some Sycamore students be awarded pretty lucrative scholarships by looking just out in the world. So you can click on some of these resources here. Then this list that I was starting to show you before, these are scholarships that we know a little bit more about. So we're on their mailing list. We've had students who have successfully earned them in the past. They're organized by deadline. And so there are a lot at the bottom of the list that are still, they haven't opened up, or we don't know when their deadline is. And so this is a evolving document that we'll be working on all year. Again, many of them apply to our seniors, but there are some junior scholarships. And actually today I went to the web to see, because I knew of one junior scholarship, the Profiles Encourage scholarship, and found this website. So this is Scholarships 360, and it has a list of the top 28 scholarships for juniors. So you can take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to attempt to stop sharing, and I'm back. Okay. Finally, somebody had a question about, oh, actually, I don't think this was a question. This is just something, as long as I was talking about scholarships, I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody participated in the financial aid night that we had. I think it was last week. So financial aid and scholarships are a little bit different. Scholarships are based on talent, merit, or some skill that you might demonstrate by making a duct tape dress or designing your greeting card. Financial aid money is based on financial need, and how financial need is determined is through a form called the FAFSA, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And filling out the FAFSA, which you do online, determines the amount of money that a family can pay as determined by FAFSA. And then that is shared with all the schools where a student applies, and then students base their financial need money on the FAFSA form that the families provide. So I'm going to show you where on our website, and I apologize, I meant to have this all up, but this was the one tab I hadn't pulled up yet.
And Mrs. Stephenson, maybe I could interject while you're
Please
pulling that up.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that the FAFSA opens October 1st of each year. So in October 1st of senior year, which of course would be 2021, then that would be from that time until I believe, I don't know exactly when the deadline is that it closes. I believe it's maybe sometime in February of 2022. That's the window of opportunity for senior year for families who are in our admission cycle, so the class of 2022.
That is exactly right. Good point. Yeah, so that's yet another task for fall of your senior year. It's a busy time for sure. Okay, so the part of the website that deals with that is, again, so a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about, you go to Sycamore Community Schools, go to the high school, and go to counseling. Can you guys see it?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. So this is the financial aid portion of the counseling website. This is where you click when you want to start filling out your FAFSA. So again, that will be like a year from now for the juniors. And then here is a video from the virtual presentation that they had a week or so ago. And then there are a lot of other resources down here about paying for college. Yeah, do you need money for college? I thought that was an interesting prompt. So spend some time checking out there, because the cost of college is it's an important part of this decision for students that are going to college. It's just, I feel like it's really important for families to have some of those tough conversations right now about how this thing that a lot of people think is way more expensive than it should be, but how it's going to be funded. And so better to be talking about it early in the process than at the last minute when you could have missed some options that might have been available along the way. One more thing, as long as I have your attention. So I think some of you have signed up for the Remind app. So the Remind app is a texting tool where we're trying to get everybody from the class of 2022 to be signed up. So all the students and all the parents ideally would be signed up. And you can do it right now if you want to. So I'm going to put up the graphic that tells you what to do. We promise we won't flood your text, but what it will be is when there's an announcement about something, when there's an opportunity that has a quick turnaround and we need to get people, you know, who are interested in doing a certain program, we'll text things out. So that is right. It's actually going to be me going into our, make a plug for our Welcome to Your Future presentation. And towards the end, it's the slide. Can you guys see that?
Sure can. Yes.
Okay, so if you're on a cell phone, you're going to want to send a text that says at 7BAKCF to the number, like a phone number, 81010. Okay. Okay, and actually, I think I keep the floor. So hopefully everybody got an email from me on, well, actually, those of you who are face-to-face got an email from me on September 10th. That was our day of releasing our Prezi presentation with this presentation called Welcome to Your Future. And I guess I just want to make a plug. This junior year is a really important year in terms of getting ready for what's going to happen after high school. And normally we would have had a parent program, and we would have had time with our students during the day to do a PowerPoint presentation and talk about some of the aspects of that process. So we couldn't really do that this year. So we developed this presentation, and what we decided to do is make videos. So for instance, in our Prezi presentation, you can go to the timeline when you have a few minutes and the student or the parent and the student together are ready to look at, what's going to be happening over the next 2 years, that will allow me to be really prepared for graduation day and set up with something great to happen afterwards. And so when you feel like it, I would go to that presentation and click on the things that you don't know that much about, or that you are interested in thinking about at that moment in time. So, for instance, self-exploration. So we think that thinking about your future is sort of a 3-step process, and it goes kind of in order. Like, there's some self-exploration where you sit down and acknowledge, like, who am I? What are the things that promote meaning in my life? What am I interested in enough that I could, work in it or think about it for 4 years? And that would lead to, like, what careers utilize those things that you know about yourself. And then if college is part of the training, so like, what training do I need for that career? Then there's another huge piece, which is college exploration and planning for ending up on a college campus after high school. So, and a thing that I always struggle with is some people have been through this before themselves and with an older child, and they're like, we know a lot of this stuff. And then other people, didn't live in this country for college or didn't go to college, and they have a lot of questions. So for those people who just really want to understand the basics of college admission in the United States, we have like a 20-page document that's part of this College 101. You would click there to utilize it. These are some more resources for students that are going to college. We have a slide in there that's specifically what's happening with college admission, given we are having a pandemic. And believe it or not, this website is sort of warehousing what is happening so you can look up the university that you're interested in and see, like, maybe how their admission practices have changed because of COVID. We have information in this presentation about students that are thinking about entering the workforce, going to the military, or taking a gap year. Slide that talks about the programming that we're going to be doing, and I know Mrs. Fisher is going to talk about some of those things later. Sorry, I'm zooming over things. I think, Mrs. Fisher, you're going to be talking about junior meetings, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the most adorable picture. Yep. So yeah, my purpose is not to go over all the slides with you, but just kind of to let you know what's in here. So we do have information about mental health and what to do when it's sort of ascended to the crisis level. Ideas specifically for parents. Here is who we are. I think that's pretty much the end of that.
Great. Well, would you like me to take it from here, Mrs. Stephenson?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. All right. Great. And I am working with 2 screens, and I realized through my other presentation and a text from Mrs. Stephenson that I have been looking away from the camera. So I apologize for that. I thought I was looking at the camera. I'm using a computer that I don't normally use. So thanks, Mrs. Stephenson, for all of that information. A lot of good and helpful information. I know one of the things that we also wanted to comment on tonight, and we have talked a little bit about it with the SAT and ACT questions. But before we get into that, I do want to remind you that there is the chat feature, and you are more than welcome to put questions in the chat, and Ms. Hevia will let Mrs. Stephenson and me know about those questions. So, please feel free to put those questions in the chat. So something that we did want to talk a little bit more about is the whole concept of college admission testing and test optional. There are some definitely there's some new terminology for us, which would I think mean for sure that there's new terminology for you as well when it comes to college admissions testing. One of one of those things has to do with test optional, which that is going to mean different things for different colleges and universities. Some will say that submitting either an ACT or an SAT score truly is something that a student has the option to do, although they will not be penalized if they choose not to submit that score. In other cases, the college or the university may say for general admission, it is optional. However, if a student would want to be considered for a particular, say, a highly competitive program, maybe in business, engineering, the healthcare field, the arts, etc., that a test score needs to be involved. So, or a particular scholarship. So our best counsel there is that it really is important to read the fine print and to know with the colleges and universities that you're applying to what their policies are. The thing that makes it challenging is right now colleges and universities are very much at a place where they are changing their policies due to COVID, due to accessibility to the college admissions tests. So one thing that I would say is with certainty is that college admissions counselors are telling us that again, the vast majority, if not all of them, are test optional at least for the college admission cycle of 2021. And and many schools have already committed to go beyond that year because they're wanting to do research as well to see how well college admission testing assists them in their admissions decisions. And so they're wanting to look at that for more than 1 year. So again, read the fine print when it comes to optional wording and what that means to a specific college or university. There's also a term called a test waiver, and that comes into play when a student has experienced a hardship where they were not able to test. And again, that would definitely come into play for this current college admission cycle of 2021. So that would be if a student wasn't able to, maybe a variety of tests were canceled that they tried to participate in, and through no fault of their own, they weren't able to participate in it. So that's a new piece of terminology, a test waiver. And then lastly, some colleges and universities are adopting a test blind policy. And what that means is that even if a student was to submit an SAT or an ACT score, the admissions office will not look at it. Well, it will definitely not be a part of their admissions decision. So certainly we continue to see that there is a trend towards college admissions testing having much less of a role. And what we're seeing is the thing that is increasing in role is the holistic evaluation of the student application, which would include the rigor of the courses that a student takes, the grades that the student earns, the types of volunteer opportunities and community places of worship, school activities that students are involved in. Another college admissions counselor talked about how it would be very helpful for students to be able to share how COVID specifically has impacted them or maybe limited some of their options when it comes to, getting that playtime on the field, maybe in a sport or an activity, or maybe having to have a part-time job because of a financial hardship with family and so forth. So again, lots and lots of changes when it comes to college admissions testing. And so I know we've got some questions and answers, so I'm going to kind of scoot through a few other resources that I'd like to show you. I am going to share my screen with you again. And I'm going to show you how we are utilizing our college admissions representatives' visits, which are definitely different this year. So if you go to the Sycamore High School webpage and you go under the counseling area, on the left-hand side, college reps and campus visits, all of our college visits are going to be virtual or are virtual this year because of our no visitor policy. So all of these visits are going to begin at 2:30 in the afternoon. And as you can see, this afternoon, Ohio Northern University was here. Well, was virtually available to the Sycamore High School students. And this schedule shows you, we have a number of different college admissions rep visits that are scheduled. So for a student to be able to participate, really all that student needs to do is at 2:30 on the day, click on the name of the college or university, and they will automatically be admitted into this college admissions visit with the admissions counselor. There may be other Sycamore students there, or it may be a one-on-one conversation. So this is a great opportunity. For students that maybe have other obligations, whether they've got academic obligations, extracurriculars, etc., since you have the contact information of the admissions counselors, then we encourage you to communicate with that person through email or by phone personally, and then set up your own personal conversation or visit with them. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that a large part of the junior year and counselor support is the junior meeting and the individual junior meeting. And that's something that Mrs. Stephenson and I will be sending out in early October. We'll be sending out communications to all of our juniors with a specific calendar or Calendly link where juniors can set up and schedule their individual junior meetings with Mrs. Stephenson or with me. And we'll be having those from October all the way through May because we've got a number of students, and so that's a large amount of time on our part, although it's something that we feel very strongly that it's very important for us to have that opportunity to at some length to be able to discuss with our students individually what their plans, their vision, or their thoughts are for life after high school, and for us to be able to show them a number of resources. And students do have the opportunity to invite parents or guardians, and that that is welcome. Since of course we've got safety guidelines that are a bit different this year, our parent participation will be virtual. So wanted to mention that, and then I know we've got a number of different chat questions. So I don't know if Mrs. Stephenson, you want to chime in on the chat, or Ms. Hevia.
Okay. One question I noticed, and I'm not sure there's an answer to it, but there were a couple questions about NHS and the volunteer hours. So, and I'll put this out if you guys know anything more recent than I know, but kind of as the school year was starting, we got this question, and I asked Mr. Hoffert, and he said that the student leadership group of NHS was going to decide if there would be any altered requirements. So the requirements for NHS are in our course planner. It might have been 10 or 20 volunteer hours. I don't know if anyone knows the exact number. But whatever it has been in the past, they may keep that amount. They may alter it, but last I knew that decision hadn't been made yet. But I think everybody will know a little bit more. So fairly soon, all of the students that qualify for NHS grade point average wise will be getting an invitation to apply. And so I'm hoping that that communication will have more specific information about what they need to provide to then be considered for joining. So right now it's like just your GPA makes you eligible, and then you're going to have to show some other things, and hopefully that'll be laid out.
Question.
Okay. And and I think I'm so sorry for people who are asking questions, because I just went in and there was a button to push, and now we're seeing questions. So I'm glad we figured it out now, but I'm sorry for people who were asking them earlier. Okay, so practice booklets I talked about. The date of the ACT is February 23rd. Virtual students are coming to take the PSAT in October. There's social distancing. It's going to be in the Gregory Center. And yeah, there have been a lot of efforts about making it safe for everybody. Is there any harm in taking the written portion of the ACT? Not at all. Yeah, no, not at all. Occasionally I'll hear a college uses it for putting you in an English class or placing, they really don't use it that much, but of course, no. You go ahead and take it once with the writing. That wouldn't be a problem at all. Does anyone else want, I'm answering all the questions, sorry.
Sure, no, this is good. So I see Colleen said, where is the link to this sheet, the virtual college visit? So hopefully you saw that that's on the counselor website on the left-hand side about midway through where it says college reps, I believe. So you click on that, and then there's another place that you'll click on here, and it will pull up the schedule, which is continuing to be updated. So that's not a static list. As we are scheduling them, they're continuing to be updated. And let's see, how do we obtain a copy of our students' transcripts? Certainly you can request from either Mrs. Stephenson or me, to have a copy of your student's transcript. We'd be glad to pass that along. And a large consideration is at the beginning of senior year. We will want for you to look at the transcripts once we've had the opportunity to add in summer school and any other kinds of grades that we need to add. We want to be sure to check them for accuracy. But you're welcome at any time to ask us, and we'd be glad to give you a copy of your son or daughter's transcript.
Okay, Mark had a question about how important is volunteering for college, and what are the options for volunteering at Sycamore? So we do have some. So we have a program, Focus Peer Mentor, that offers some volunteer hours, but there is another portion of the counseling website under student opportunities. We have volunteering opportunities in the community. I know a lot of students will look for opportunities either in an area they're interested in, like maybe they're going to study to major in something healthcare related in college. That's what they're thinking, or they want to explore it. And so they'll contact hospitals. Now, I would imagine those are more limited right now. So some other ones are churches or Matthew 25 Ministries. But there should be a list of things, of volunteer opportunities on the under student opportunities. That's a really awesome resource, our student opportunities. We try to keep that updated. Mrs. Brenner does a great job, but when we hear about opportunities, we pass them to her, and she puts them in that part of the website. And it's always included in the counseling newsletter too, that you get every other week.
So then there's a question about, can a student, so it's something about maybe all attempts, they're the best score, or do, I think it maybe has to, my best understanding of the question is taking the SAT multiple times and maybe sending a best score to a college or university. So there is definitely an option when a student registers for the SAT or the ACT to determine there are I believe with the ACT, I think you have up to 4 schools where you can actually send the scores when you're registering for the test. And that would be free of charge. That ACT would be offering that score to the school free of charge. Now, of course, at that point in time, your student doesn't know what their score is because it's pre-administration for them taking the test. And in my experience, college admissions counselors, if a student is submitting multiple scores for the same test, they will look at your highest. And then some schools, and again, this is where schools are going to vary, will what we say super score. So they will, out of the different sections, they will take the highest score to come up with a composite that includes the highest score of the subsets, subtests. So again, that's going to vary depending upon the school, if they super score or if they don't. Let's see, and then the virtual college visits for the college admissions counselors, they're fairly new for us. I know when our college admissions counselors were here in person, typically the visits would last between a half an hour, might be a little bit more if a student and a college admissions counselor got into more of a detailed or specific conversation. And so, it doesn't mean that a student has to stay there the entire time. So students can come and go if they want to sign on at 2:30 and need to leave at 2:45. That's understandable. And if they wanted to continue the conversation, they could certainly do that. I don't know, Mrs. Stephenson, if you want to take the question about benefits of taking a subject test for SAT.
And that is going, there are so few schools that require subject tests anymore that I don't know how many students even take them. Certainly, I guess if your school requires, so back in the day, you would take the general SAT, and then a school might ask you to take 2 subject tests. So SAT has like just a math test or just an English test. And if your school requires that, please let me know which one it is, because I don't think there's very many that do anymore. And I just would like to know. But yes, you'll have to do that. As far as should you take them just because you think you could get like a really good score and that would be a feather in your cap, I guess I wouldn't say not to do that. But I'm not sure it's used very much anymore, like gives you that much more than just getting a really good score on the 2 separate parts of the SAT. So in general, it's really, subject tests are not talked about very much anymore. And unless your school requires it, I don't think you need to do it. Somebody was asking about overgrad. Is the data available to see previous Sycamore students who applied and got into certain schools and what their GPA and ACT scores were? Yes, it's one of the coolest features of overgrad. So when you're in your student's account and you get to the part about their college search, and you can noodle around in there. When I put up my screen, it will actually, I think it might have the student's name, so I don't even want to take a chance of doing that. It won't have names of students on your child's screen. It will just have a dot, and it says what the dot has a GPA and a test score attached to it. So if you go to college search and your student has followed a college, just click on the name of the college, like Ohio State. There are a couple tabs at the top, and if you need me to explain this to you, maybe we'll put out a video or something on that, because they are really neat. And this will be part of the junior meeting too. We can go there. I think it's important to do this because it speaks to, for each student, what's a reach school, what's comfort, what's a safety school. But when you get to the college's name, there's some general admission information. And then if you go on the second tab, I think it's called admission stats, and way down at the bottom is a graph that has like 10 years of data of Sycamore kids that applied to all the schools we've had them apply to. And then there are like crosshairs that show what the average is of the kids that got in. So there's a bunch of green dots below, and a bunch above. But if you're down here, that's kind of a reach school. If you're up here, it's a safety school. So those are called scattergrams. And yeah, they're at the bottom of the page of admission statistics in overgrad.
I'd just like to remind everyone that it's 7:29, so the session is going to end in a minute.
And I think we've got it open till 7:35 in case
Oh, we
we
do?
run
Oh, great.
over.
Okay, wonderful. Then strike that.
But that's not too long.
No, it's not. Did we
And we do have.
What is torch prep? There was a question about torch prep. What is it?
So yeah, Torch Prep is a test prep company, and they help us. They kind of administer the practice ACT, and after the test is done, I think all students get results, but then there will also be like a flyer where you can sign up for their test prep. And in the past, I think it's happened at the high school. So they're one of a lot of companies in the area that do test prep, but you'll get more information based on having taken the practice ACT.
And on our website, under ACT and SAT testing, there are a list of various organizations in the community that do offer prep. So.
Oh yeah, and did you say in our Welcome to Your Future presentation?
Well, that too, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And I think so, Renee, maybe they're doing it different this year. In the past, students didn't need to sign up specifically for the state administered ACT. They were automatically signed up for it.
Okay, so we are doing a sign up this year.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Good news. Okay. And then there was also a question about the virtual college visit page. So that is being, again, that's a living document that we are adding to as visits are being scheduled. So whatever we have listed on that page that's what we have in terms of the number of visits that are currently scheduled. And there likely will be more. So I would just suggest that students and parents look at that with some regularity.
And so, again, February 23rd is an actual real life official ACT.
Right.
It can be submitted to colleges. If that's the only time you take the ACT, it's official and it can be used for college admission.
Yes, all juniors that are not taking the PSAT on October 14th, we have put them in the practice ACT on October 14th. So other juniors who are not taking the PSAT, they're taking a practice ACT on October 14th. So they'll get a practice then on October 14th. Good to see you too, Kevin.
Great. Wonderful questions. Wonderful.
Yeah, really good questions.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay. And certainly if we missed your question or you think of something afterwards, you know who we are. Bonnie Stephenson, Brenda Fisher, and Renee Hevia. And we're like class of 2022 is what we do. So reach out. We want to help. And it's a weird year, but we want to make it a really good year for the students and the families.
I saw one more question here. So my son is doing PSAT October 14th. Do they need to do a practice ACT before February? There's definitely our practice ACTs that are available out on the web, and also looking at our resource page. So that's something that your son can do on his own, on his own time, on his own pace. Is take a practice test multiple times if he would like to do that. So so that's definitely a resource that's available.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. All right. Right. All right. Very good. Well, again, we thank you all, and looks like we are right at time. So Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we're working through learning some of our technology. And we hope that you all have a great evening, and please reach out with questions. All right.
Have a wonderful night.
Take
Yes,
care.
have a good evening. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.